Wow, Jenny, you look like hell. Yeah, I know. I had surgery 2 weeks ago. Man, I really thought that I was gonna have that surgery and then I was gonna feel better like that. Like, I gave myself, I literally planned a week off for surgery. I was like, yeah, I'll just take a week off. Well, no, obviously you're not gonna just take a week off. You got an organ removed. I'm like just barely feeling back to normal. This is the first day that I've worked a full work day, which here at Trout Nation headquarters, that's about 12 to 14 hours a day working on writing and videos and blogging and stuff like that. So today is my first day, but it is the end of the day, so I am run down, right? I am run down. All right, but we have to read the Mister. So like, obviously, I did it again. We're not reading the Mister, we're reading the Mrs. We're not reading the Mister, we're reading the Mrs. When last we left Maxim and Alessia, they were in the apartment and Maxim had like just barely held himself back from calling his mother a whore. And then he was angry because Alessia came in past a curfew that she didn't realize that she had. So let's rejoin that shit show already in progress. Alessia freezes as I stride toward her, wanting to vent my spleen. All I can think about when people say they want to vent their spleen is that they want to have diarrhea. That's what I hear in my mind. And I don't even know how the spleen works in all of that, but for some reason, vent my spleen just sounds like diarrhea words to me. I'm overwhelmed with fury, but as I step up to her, she raises her face to mine, all innocence and beauty and beguiling dark eyes. I'm sorry, my phone died, she whispers. Oh, this is not what I thought she'd say. I'm expecting a spirited argument that will help me offload some of my frustration and fear. Her simple apology and admission steal the wind from my sails, and in a nanosecond my temper softens. Let's just sit here and think critically for a moment about what we're reading, okay? Let's talk about this. Let's just analyze the text for a little bit here. He was hoping they would get into a fight because he had so much like fight energy. Like he was hoping that they would get into a fight because he wanted to offload some of his anger onto her. Like he's disappointed that he didn't get to use her to vent his spleen. No, this is again, just FYI, that's abuse behavior. Being disappointed that you can't yell and shout at your partner, there's something bad going on. There's something bad happening. Tentatively, as if she's about to beard a lion, she reaches up and strokes my cheek. So approaching him is akin to approaching like a massive predator. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't that be how a man should think about how his wife is reacting to him? Why shouldn't that be attractive and sexy, that she's afraid of him while he's angry? She tells him that she's sorry, she lost track of time. Actually, it's more than once. I want to point out the number of times that she apologizes here. She says, the first thing she says is, I'm sorry, my phone died. There's one. Then she says, when he says he was worried, she says, I know, I'm sorry. That's twice. Then, without anything else, like all he does is sigh and hug her, she apologizes again. She says, I'm sorry, I lost track of time. 3 times. 3 times she has had to say, I'm sorry. He asks her where she's been, and she says, if you promise not to be mad, I'll tell you. No, I don't promise. Not at all. I'm mad already. You have a disturbing tendency to put yourself in perilous situations. Tell me. It's like honestly, this does not even feel like the same character from The Mister. Like, I feel like at this point, E.L. James was just like, you know what? The sales of The Mister were not as good as the sales of 50 Shades of Grey. So maybe for this next book, what I do is I throw out the character that I wrote in the first book, and then I just insert Christian Grey. It's like Christian Grey playing the role of. Because this whole, like, you get yourself into danger, excuse me? You get yourself into these perilous situations? Sir, she was trafficked, and then she was kidnapped. She didn't get herself into any of these perilous situations. Unless the perilous situation that you're counting is when she left a party because she was pissed off at you. Which, by the way, was not perilous. At least not for her. Alessia tells him that she found her great uncle. Maxim is like, how? She confesses that she went to see that private detective and that she asked about Blariana. Even though I asked you not to. Maxim's mouth flattens, his eyes frost, and she knows he's irritated. Bitch, when is he not irritated? She nods, trying and failing to feel guilty. Good girl. He shakes his head and, taking her hand, hauls her into his lap. What the hell, Alessia? I don't want you involved in that world, even from a distance. Tom's on it. Admittedly, he hasn't got very far. Call the private investigator and ask him to stop. Let Tom deal with it. Someone I trust. Please. Okay, she says quickly. I'm sorry. One of the things that I've noticed with E.L. James and her writing is that oftentimes the body language that is happening during conversations and when certain emotions are being expressed do not make sense. Like, Maxim is angry and he's like, what the hell, Alessia? But he grabs her and pulls her to sit on his lap. That's like a playful move. Like when you grab your wife and pull her into your lap, that's a playful move. That's not, I'm so angry with you move, right? That's, and if he was doing it because he was angry with her, it's almost infantilizing, which I know would not happen in this book because E.L. James does not infantilize her female characters. This time I'm drinking like the actual Kool-Aid, not store-brand Kool-Aid, because my son got a great deal. He got 4 like canister things of Kool-Aid for like $10. So this time, I'm getting a little fancy. Got the real Kool-Aid. Yeah. Maxim asks her why she didn't tell him that she found her great uncle and says he would have gone with her to meet him. Of course he would have gone with her. She's not allowed to go anywhere. He has to go with her. I didn't plan to meet him. I was going to deliver a letter. We learned about correspondence and letter writing today in class. Please give me the strength. Now, I want to believe that Alessia knew how to write a letter before now. I want to believe that because her grandmother wrote letters back home. And I want to believe it because I don't want to think that E.L. James believes that people in Albania don't know how to write letters, and this Albanian woman had to come to England to learn how to write a fucking letter. That cannot be what happened. That cannot be the implication here. I won't allow that to be the implication here. Maxim says, well, if you have any other hidden relatives, I'd be happy to take you to meet them. Let me, please. God forbid she have a life that does not involve something, like, God for fucking bid she find this family member who she has this astonishing connection to that I would have loved to have seen explored, but, you know, we can't have any interesting scenes in this book. God forbid she do that herself, because it might make Maxim slightly uncomfortable. Maxim might have to face his own feelings about fear and her being taken from him, and rather than do any of that work on himself, he should just be with her no matter what is happening. Forever. That sounds reasonable. It's perfectly reasonable. Alessia kisses his cheek. Thank you for not being too mad at me. I am still a little mad at you. And we say angry. Mad is American. And I was fucking incandescent earlier, with worry more than anything. I know. I'm sorry. Shall I cook? Are you hungry? I wish I had stared directly into the fucking eclipse today. I wish I would have stared into the eclipse until my eyes were nothing but irradiated globs of useless jelly. The shitty thing is there's audiobooks. So Alessia is making some kind of dinner with some sort of tomato-based sauce. Maxim is watching her make the dinner while she tells him about this uncle and the thing that her uncle has that I can't say because it is my nemesis. She tells him about how her grandmother was shunned for marrying this Albanian guy, and Maxim, of course, brings it right back around to him because nothing can exist about Alessia if it does not immediately come back to him. Shit. My family haven't shunned her, have they? My mother? Yeah, so, instead of just listening to the fucking story, let's be sure that we bring this back around to one more thing that you can be mad at your mother about. He says that this uncle should go to Albania to meet the rest of that family, and she's like, I'll call my mom after dinner, and then there's a section break, and she's cleaning. You know, she cooked the dinner, he could be helping her, but nope, she's cleaning in the kitchen while he is playing piano. Oh, that's interesting. He is doing the thing that she loves to do while she cleans up the dinner that she made him. I'm just saying. I fucking hate this guy. I hate him. I hate him so much. So she goes in, and this time though, instead of him leaning on the door and listening to her play piano, she leans on the door and listens to him play piano. So you see, it's not a repeat of 1,000 times that we've seen this thing. This is brand new. Alessia smiles. The theme is a complete contrast to his melancholy composition that she played for him not so long ago in the hideout in Cornwall. He turns, noticing her, and she sidles over and sits beside him at the piano. This is a happier tune. I wonder why that is. Maxim smirks and she smiles. It's from Interstellar. Ah, yes, Interstellar. You know, I haven't seen Interstellar, but from what I hear, it really is just a rollicking good time. It just lifts the spirit. Okay, so here's where we run into a little bit of a timeline issue. Actually, a big old bit of a timeline issue. For me, anyway. After they discuss the happy music of Interstellar, they talk about how they need to have a low profile because they've been showing up in the papers and there's that whole immigration thing, right? So he's like, we have to keep a low profile. I think we should go to Cornwall. This is what he says. He says, so when you've finished your course, I think we should go to Cornwall. I have work to do at the hall anyway. I know we're going to pack the flat up this weekend so we can move, but maybe we can get someone to do that for us, or we can wait. So, first of all, how long has she been taking this course? Because it does not seem like it has been long enough for her to learn how to be every inch a countess, the way that he wants her to be, right? And they're going to move this weekend. But in the last chapter, they were just starting to redecorate the house that they were going to move into. He was worried about her and where she was and like her whereabouts while he was talking about redecorating that house, right? So now it's later that night and they're packing up to move that weekend and the course is already over. But she hasn't been in the course for that long. What is going on with this timeline? They get into this whole thing about like, he's like, oh, I feel weird playing in front of you. And she's like, I love the way that you play piano. And he's like, no, I can't play piano in front of you. And she's like, I'll play piano in front of me. And then there's a section break. And Alessia goes to get her now charged phone. There are several messages from Maxim. He sounds more frantic and annoyed with each one. And she swallows down her guilt. She didn't mean to worry him. Okay, he wasn't worried. right? This wasn't worry. This was lack of control. He wasn't able to control where you were, Alessia. There are emails from 4 of the colleges she sent applications to. The one she reads first is from the Royal College of Music. She has an audition. They are keen to see her. And then that wow or whatever noise that she makes. She runs back into the living room. Maxim looks up. I have an audition at the Royal College of Music. He grins and applauds, rising slowly to his feet. My talented wife. That's fantastic news. He has to immediately take ownership of her. Like, he can't be just like, congratulations or that's fantastic news. He has to reiterate that this has something to do with him. That, oh, this is my wife that has done this. Not you did it, good job. It's my wife has done this. She gets auditions like for all the other places too. Like she gets audition offers from all the schools because of course she does, because she's this incredible, you know, talent, right? She goes off to FaceTime her mom and tell her about it because remember they can FaceTime because even though she didn't know what a smartphone was, her mom has one. And even though they don't know what debit cards are in Albania, they have smartphones. But we go back into Maxim's POV so that he can be upset some more about the fact that for, you know, 45 minutes he didn't know where she was. Maybe I worry too much. Alessia's fine. She came back in one piece. She's a functioning adult, for heaven's sake, who has been abducted. Twice. Fuck. I thought, what did I think? She'd left? She'd been abducted again? Mate, let it go. She's fine. She's here. What is the draw? Like what reader? What is it with a reader who is drawn to books where men are obsessively protective? Like where it crosses the line from being worried about someone to controlling them. Like what makes that attractive? Who wants to fantasize about someone being so obsessed with their alleged safety that they fly off the handle because they get worried and they are obsessed with controlling their every movement? Like why is that an appealing fantasy for some readers? And how do we fix those readers? Now, because there's okay, because there has been very little conflict and this book was written because it was contracted and she had no idea where the fuck she was going with it. Guess what happens? Guess who shows up? Guess who it is when there is a freaking, oh my gosh, there is a doorbell, the doorbell rings. Guess. I want you to guess who it is. And if you guessed that it was Anatoly, you guessed correct. Anatoly is in London, and he has just rung their doorbell. Hello, Englishman, Anatoly says, with an arrogance and swagger that makes me want to deck him. What the hell are you doing here? I've come to see you. Me? That's in italics with an exclamation point. Why? Aren't you going to invite me in? No, I'm going to tell you to fuck off. And they say the English are so polite. He steps in, and contrary to how I feel, I let him. What the hell? In the hallway, he stops and turns to address me. Where's your wife, the woman who should be my wife? Has she had enough of the upper-class snobbery and left you yet? Do you mean the woman you abused and kidnapped and dragged across to Europe? So Anatoly points out, and he's kind of right, that he got Alessia out of England so she was able to come back legally. So he kind of did them a favor. I'm not saying he's a good guy, because he's not, because he tried to assault her and he should not have kidnapped her, but I just think it's so funny that he's like, yeah, but she's here legally now, and it's like, you really can't argue with that, can you? There's a section break in here somewhere, but one thing that this ebook formatting does not do well is that it is sometimes impossible to tell that there has been a section break if it occurs at the bottom of a page. I had no idea that we had changed POVs. It took me a long time to figure out, like, we've changed POVs. Alessia asks what he's doing there, and he says that a journalist showed up at her father's house. This still does not, in fact, explain why he's there at their house in England, because a journalist came to visit a house in Albania. But he asks, you know, how she's doing, and yeah, we all figured out that you're not pregnant. Well, he says with child, because of course they are medieval peasants. And they're talking to each other. We don't really, it doesn't really say that they're speaking. Oh no, it does say that he answers in her own language. So they're speaking in Albanian, and Maxim says, "Enough," Maxim snaps. "You two speak in English, or I will throw him out." And then Maxim glares at Alessia as if it's her fault that Anatoly is standing in his hallway. Yep, he's gonna blame her for him showing up. I am going to make a prediction. I predict now that after Anatoly leaves, they are going to have an argument in which he accuses Alessia of having been with Anatoly and not with this great uncle or something. Now, that would actually be conflict, so it probably won't happen. But if this were a slightly less terrible book, that would be the terrible thing that happened next. I absolutely love that he does the "I will not press one for English" thing. Because he hears two people speaking Albanian in his home. He's probably gonna have, like, crime scene cleaners come in and power wash the place like meth had been manufactured there, because he's like, "Oh, someone spoke Albanian in my home, oh, the peasants." Anatoly has a message from Alessia's father, a message that Anatoly had to bring himself because Alessia's father doesn't speak English. And so, and he doesn't want Alessia to hear it. It's just for men. It says it's a matter for men and only men. And so Jack, the father, could not have told this to Maxim without going through Alessia. So Anatoly had to come there. This does not, in fact, explain why they couldn't have called on the phone. We know they have a phone. We know they have a clever phone. Even though they didn't know, no one in Albania fucking knew what, like, you know, if the eclipse had happened in Albania of E.L. James's imagining today, they would be sacrificing goats and shit, right? But, whatever. He couldn't call. He had to come all the way to England to deliver this message. Anatoly is straight up like, "I am not going to tell you this in front of Alessia. We have to go somewhere private." And Alessia's like, "I'm not going to go anywhere." And then she's like, "I'll just go get you some more wine. Why don't you guys go into the living room and I'll get you some wine." I'm sorry, I just can't with this. I can't with this book. They leave the building, actually. They go outside to have this confrontation. These two men glowering at each other. They just go outside. Do you remember how there were paparazzi all the time outside? There were just always paparazzi outside. Conveniently, the paparazzi are not interested in Maxim right now, because E.L. James needs the street to be clear so that he and Anatoly can have this tense conversation. So there are no paparazzi this time. Every other time, there's paparazzi. You better believe that building is crawling with paparazzi, right? All the time. But not right now, when she needs them to have a place to have a conversation that's not inside the house. Oh, and then there's this whole fucking thing where Alessia asks Anatoly if he's armed, and he's like, "No," and she's like, and then Maxim is like, "Oh, well, that's why he could kidnap her before. He was armed. What a horrible guy." And, like, yeah, he's horrible because he kidnapped her and shit, but I really need to step back here, just pull back for a moment. The issue is not this man was armed and horrible. The issue is that now you are asking this man who you know has kidnapped someone if he's armed and he says no, and you're just like, okay, well, obviously he wouldn't lie about something like that. I'll just go outside with him. What? Oh, and then there's also a part where he's like, the fucking bastard brought a gun into my home. And I'm like, didn't you guys have fucking guns in your home at Cornwall? Like, there was a whole thing about you guys getting guns and going out and shooting. Anyway, I have to correct myself. They do not go outside where the paparazzi are. For all I know, there are still paparazzi. They stop in the foyer. So maybe there will be a ton of paparazzi. I don't know. But I do think it's fucking odd that when the building has been surrounded by paparazzi nonstop for the entire book, he was fine with going outside. He didn't even give it a second thought. He wasn't like, I shouldn't go out in front of the paparazzi with this strange Albanian man. Anatoly has a newspaper clipping of a picture of two guys, and Maxim can't read the headlines, but it's like the two traffickers, right? Then Anatoly gets out the tabloid photo of Charlotte kissing Maxim, and he says, "This reached Albania?" Yeah, this is how fucking world famous Maxim is. Let's just consider the Albania that E.L. James has created, okay? The Albania that E.L. James has created is completely cut off from the modern world. The only reason that she knows anything about the world outside was because her grandmother was English. Everything else in E.L. James's version of Albania has been completely cut off from the world. However, Maxim is so famous that he is in tabloids in Albania. That's how famous Maxim, who does nothing. Yes, he was a DJ. He's not a movie star. He's not a sports star. He is just a fucking count who DJs on the side and is kind of a photographer. He is just some minor British nobility. He is so famous that he ends up in tabloids in Albania. He's confronting Maxim with this paper clipping of how famous Maxim is kissing this Charlotte woman. And he asks if Alessia has seen it. And he says that his father-in-law is like, you know, hey, you should be more discreet with your affairs. And Maxim tells him that, yeah, like, Alessia's seen this. She was at that party. Oh, he looks crestfallen. So much so that I feel a nanoparticle of pity for him. He still holds a torch that shines brightly for my wife. He loves her in his own way. What an idiot. Okay, tell me how you feel about your wife. Look, I know what he's thinking. He's what I am supposed to be reading there. I am supposed to be reading that he loves Alessia even though there's no chance they're ever going to get together. What an idiot. But what happened in that sentence, in those sentences, I'm sorry, is that he says that he loves Alessia. What an idiot. What an idiot. You know, he growls, you fuck this up between you and her. I'm here, waiting. It's obvious you're gutter press. They don't approve. The snobbery and disdain is in every word they write about her. I'll be in her home country where we love her. I love her. No, you don't. And keep away from my wife. If you hadn't mistreated her, she might be with you now. But you did. You fucked up, and she's mine now. In every way. And I don't give a flying fuck about the press. Leave Alessia alone. Now you can see yourself out. He goes back upstairs. He tells Alessia that it was just like Anatoly came this whole way to show him this picture. All of this could have been an email. And that's not me being pithy. That's not me repeating some pithy internet joke about this meeting could have been an email. It literally all could have been an email because we know that they have clever phones and that her mother had already seen that picture on her Google News alert or whatever, right? So could have just emailed it. But no, we needed it to be in the newspaper so that Anatoly would come all the way to England. Like, why did this even happen? Why? Why is Anatoly in England? Why did he come there? And there's no reason for it. It was just to throw in this unnecessary dramatic scene of them calling each other an asshole like a million times and, you know, getting in this argument. Oh my gosh. This really feels like when I was in middle school, I had this story that I was writing. And because I was in middle school, I didn't understand that stories needed beginnings, middles, ends, goal, motivation, conflict. You needed like one overarching theme that like tied everything together. You know, I didn't understand all of those things because I was just writing. So I started writing the story, and then I kept writing, and then something would happen, and then I would make something else happen, and it'd be really dramatic, and then everything would get wrapped up, and then something dramatic would happen, and it was less like a book and more like this ongoing soap opera where things kept getting more and more and more outlandish, and it was just endless. It was like notebooks and notebooks and notebooks. It was floppy disks long. It couldn't all be on one floppy disk. I wrote it in Microsoft Works. Not Word, Works. And it was on more than one floppy disk because I had to split it into 2 files. So, this book is like that. This book is like my middle school, nonstop, ridiculous, okay, now something needs to happen again that will be dramatic. I know, this guy will show up that loves her. Like, this is just, Anyway, where was I? Maxim goes upstairs. He tells Alessia not about the picture of the 2 traffickers, which, by the way, we don't get an answer. Anatoly doesn't say why he has the picture of those 2 traffickers. He just shows it to him, and then they start talking about the kissing Charlotte thing. Like, the main plot of this book seemed like it was going to be identifying the traffickers and capturing them, or, you know, bringing them to justice. But I guess not, because Anatoly just showed up with a picture of them from an Albanian newspaper, asked if those were the guys, and then they moved back to the maybe he cheated, maybe he didn't when Charlotte kissed him at the party drama. Oh, and then Anatoly just leaves after that. So he's back in the apartment. Maxim's back in the apartment and decides, like, you know, he doesn't tell her about the picture of the 2 traffickers. He does tell her about the picture of Charlotte, and she's upset again, and he's like, oh, you know, like, he knows he can prove it. He shows her the Instagram reel of her playing piano at the party, at Grisha's party, and then she sees the indelible proof in the background that Maxim was kissed against his will. And then they kiss and they're gonna have sex. But at this point, luckily, we are skipping those. I mean, like, I honestly was afraid that there would just be tons of sex and very little plot in this book, and as it turns out, there really isn't any sex or plot. It's just, we're just going with them about their day. Constantly. Now, I don't want to backseat drive this whole trafficking thing, but I wonder why Anatoly shows up with this newspaper clipping about the traffickers that shows photos of the traffickers, pictures that you can see of the traffickers. And Maxim tells him to take off. Why wouldn't you put him in touch with Tom, who is trying to also find the traffickers and rescue Blariana? Why have you not... Like, I get it. He loves your wife, and he's kidnapped your wife before, and that's terrible. That's awful. I'm with you on that. He should not have kidnapped your wife. But he has this massive piece of evidence that might be useful. Just not that important to you? Okay. That's cool. All right, well, like, comment, subscribe. Look in the description box to find other places where you can find me. And I am going to just go and, I don't know, I might start praying again. I might return to the Catholic Church. This book might be the thing that drives me back into the loving arms of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because, I'm telling you, I don't... I'll catch you on the flip side.